Thursday, October 30th, 1913.
Place your hand against your head, and you will notice that we are then able the more readily to speak to you, so that you will be able to understand.
Like this?
Yes. It helps you and us, both.
How?
Because there is a stream of magnetism proceeding from us to you, and by doing as we have suggested, it is not so quickly dissipated.
I don't understand a word of all this.
Maybe not. There are many things you have yet to learn, dear, and what we are saying now is one of those things, little in itself but still of account. It is often these small things which help to success. Now, while we are not over anxious to explain the methods we employ in the transmission of these messages, because we can only make you understand imperfectly, still we may say this: the power we use is best described as magnetism, and by means of this the vibrations of our minds are directed on your own. Your hand being so placed serves as a kind of magnet and reservoir in one, and helps us. But we will not continue this, but get on to something we can better make clear to you. In our life in the Summerland, we endeavor to help both those who come over to us, and also their friends still on earth. Indeed, the two phases of service are inseparable, for those who pass over here are often much distressed, and so, unable to progress, until they know that those they have left behind are being helped from this side. So we often make excursions to the earth plane for this reason. Last week we received a woman who had left a husband and 3 small children, and she begged to be allowed to go and see how they were managing at home. She was so anxious that at last we took her, and arrived at evening time just as they were all sitting down to supper. The man had just come in from work, and he was going to have his meal before putting them to bed. They were 2 girls, aged about 7 and 5, and a little boy of 2. They all sat round the table in the kitchen, a fairly comfortable room, and the father told the eldest girl to say grace. This is what she said: God provide for us all, and Mother, for Christ's sake. Amen. The woman went round to the little one, and laid her hand on her hair and spoke to her, but could not make her hear. She was troubled at this, but we bade her wait and watch. By and by the girl spoke, after a long silence, during which, she and her father had been thinking of the one who had passed away, and she said, "Dad, do you think Mammy knows about us now? And Auntie Lizzie?" "I don't know," he replied, "but I think she does, because I have felt very miserable the last few days, as if she was worrying about something, and it might be Auntie Lizzie." "Well," said the child, "then don't let us go. Mrs., we cannot provide the name, will look after baby, and I can help when I come home from school, and we shan't have to go then." "Don't you want to go?" he said. "I don't," answered the child. "Baby and Sissy would go, but I don't want to." "Well, I'll think about it," he said. "So don't worry. I dare say we shall manage all right. And Mother will help, and the angels," persisted the little girl, "because she can speak to them now, and they will help if she asks them." Now, the father said nothing more, but we could see his mind, and read in it the thought that if this little child had such faith, he ought to have as much at least, and by he made up his mind to try the thing and see how it would work out. For the parting with his children was not to his mind, and he was very glad to find an excuse to keep them. I cannot say that the mother obtained much comfort from her visit. But on our way back we told her that the faith of that child, if it was reinforced by that of the father, would form a powerful medium of help, or we were much mistaken. On our return we reported all to our mother angel, and immediately measures were taken to ensure that the family should not be broken up, and the mother was bidden to strive to progress, in order that she should be able to help also. Then a change came over her. She set to work in real earnest, and will soon be allowed to join parties on their journeys earthward now and then, and to add her little mite to their stronger service. But now we must leave that case, for a time, and tell you of another. A man came to our colony a short time ago, who also had lately passed over. He was wandering about seeking somewhere to his mind, and thought this settlement looked something like what he wanted. You must not think he was alone. There accompanied him, but at a distance, a watcher who was ready to help when required. The man was one of those curious mixtures we sometimes get. There was considerable goodness and light in him, but that could not be used for furthering his development, on account of its being checked and held in ward by other traits which he could not be brought to rearrange. He was met on a path, some distance away from the hill where our home is, by one of the workers in another home, and the latter stopped and questioned him, for he noticed a strange and perplexed look in his face. When he stopped, he received a signal from the guardian, who was some distance away, and was informed of the problem, and so, all instantaneously, was equipped to deal with it. He spoke kindly, and the following conversation ensued. A. You seem to be not very familiar with this region. Can I help you in any way? B. I don't think so, although it is kind of you to offer to do so. A. Your difficulty is one which we might deal with here, but not so thoroughly as we would like to do. B. I am afraid you don't know what that difficulty is. A. Well, partly, I think. You are perplexed because you have not met any of your friends here, and wonder why. B. That is so, certainly. A. But they have met you. B. I have not seen them, and I have been wondering where I could find them. It seems so strange. I always thought that our friends were the first to meet us when we pass over, and I cannot understand it at all. A. But they did meet you. B. I didn't see anyone I knew. A. That is quite correct. They met you and you did not know them. Would not know them. B. I don't understand. A. What I mean is this. When you came over here, you were immediately taken charge of by your friends. But your heart, good in some respects and even enlightened, was hard and blindly obstinate in others. And this is the reason you did not recognize their presence. The other looked long and doubtfully at his companion, and at last stammered out a question. B. What is wrong with me then? Everybody I meet is kind and happy, and yet I don't seem to be able to join any party, or to find my own proper place. What is wrong with me? A. The first thing you must learn is that your opinions may not be correct. I'll tell you one which is at fault, to begin with. This world is not, as you are trying to imagine it, a place where people are all that is good, or all that is evil. They are much as they are on earth. Another thing is this. Your wife, who came over here some years ago, is in a higher sphere than the one in which you will be placed, when you have at length got the correct perspective of things. She was not mentally your equal in the earth life, and is not so now. But you are on a lower plane than she is, on general lines and all things considered. That is the second thing you have to accept, and accept ex animo. You do not accept it, as I can see by your face. You will have to do so before you can advance. When you have done so, then you will probably be enabled to communicate with her. At present that is not possible. The man's eyes became dimmed with tears, but he smiled rather sweetly and sadly as he quoted, Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. A. Quite right, and that brings me to the third thing you will have to accept, and that is this. There is one watching over you always, always at hand to help you. He is a prophet, or rather a seer, like me, and it was he who put that saying into your mind to repeat to me. Now the stranger's face became grave and thoughtful. He was trying to get the right and true view of things. He asked, Is it vanity then, that is my fault? A. Yes, but vanity of a rather difficult kind. In many things you are sweet and humble, and not without love, which is the greatest power of all. But there is a certain hardness in your mind, rather than in your heart, which must be softened. You have got into a mental rut, and must get out of it and look farther afield, or you will go about like a blind man who can see a contradiction and a paradox. There are some things you see clearly enough, and to others you are totally oblivious. Learn that to change your opinions in the face of evidence is not weakness or backsliding, but is the sign of an honest mind. I tell you this, further, had your heart been as hard as your mind, you would not be wandering here in the fields of God's sunshine, but in darker regions yonder beyond those hills, far beyond them. Now I have explained, as well as I am able, your rather perplexing case, friend. The rest is for another to do. B. Who? A. The one I have already told you of, the one who has you in charge. B. Where is he? A. 1 minute, and he will be here. The message was sent, and the guardian stood beside his charge, who, however, was unable to see him. A. Well, he is here. Tell him what you want. B. Looked full of doubt and anxiety, and then said, Tell me, my friend, if he is here, why I cannot see him. A. Because in that phase of your mind's activity you are blind. That is the first thing you have to realize. Do you believe me when I say you are, in some directions, blind? B. I can see very well, and the things I see are fairly plain, and the country quite natural and beautiful. I am not blind in that respect. But I am beginning to think there may be other things, just as real, which I cannot see, but shall see someday perhaps, but... A. Now, stop there, and leave the but alone. And now look, as I take your guide by the hand. He then took the watching guide's right hand in his own, telling B to look intently, and tell him if he saw anything. He could not be certain, however. He thought he saw some kind of transparent form, which might or might not be real, but was by no means sure. A. Then take his hand in yours. Take it from me. The man held out his hand, and took that of his guide, from the hand of A, and burst into tears. Had he not progressed so far as to make that action, he would not have seen his guide, nor have been able to feel his touch. The fact that he put out his hand at the command of A, showed that he had progressed during their conversation, and he immediately received his reward. The other held his hand in a firm grasp for some time, and, all the while, B saw him, and felt him, more and more clearly. Then, A left them together. Soon B would be able to hear, as well as see, his guardian, and no doubt he will go on now from strength to strength. This will show you what difficult cases we sometimes have to deal with. Light and gross darkness, humility and hard, obstinate pride all mixed up together, and hard to separate or to treat successfully. But such problems are interesting, and, when mastered, give great joy to the workers. Ruby sends her love and this message to her parents: Believe me, my darlings, the doing of a good and kind action, and the thinking and speaking of kind words, by those we love on earth, are immediately telegraphed here, and we use them to adorn our rooms, as Renee adorns her rooms with your flowers. God bless you, dear lad. Good night.